This video is a brief intro that goes through most of the features that an instructor might need when starting in WeBWorK. So if this is your first time using this, welcome. So what I've already done is created a WeBWorK course that is called MTH199-KIM. When you request your course to be created, there will be a certain web page as shown up here, and each course has its own web page. So if you are teaching two different courses, I'm not talking about sections, but two truly different courses, perhaps like an algebra and a calculus, it will probably be helpful to you to have two separate courses made. As a default, I have EKIM as both the username and password, so I'll log in with this, and you'll see that this is generally the setup, that the default password is the same as a username. I think that's helpful for many reasons, for students who forget their password and so on. So the same thing will happen to them. So I'm logged in here. This is a brand new course that I just created for the purpose of this video, so there's nothing here yet. What I'd like to do is first create a new homework set. Now there's two ways to do this. You can go to the homework sets editor. This is not the usual way I do it, but if you click here and then choose create, we can call this homework set 1 and hit take action, and there it's been created. It will be available to students starting on the 29th of August. Oh, I'm making this video on the 22nd of August, by the way, so I think by default it's going to change that to be open a week later. And it will finally be due to the students, so they can no longer try problems for credit on the 5th of September, and then the answers are available to them starting on the 7th of September. So this date must be equal to or later than this date, but beyond that you have complete control. Another way to create, so I just clicked on library browser, so we can add problems to homework number 1, but we can actually also just create a new homework. As I often do, is I just click on the library browser right away, and maybe we'll call the new homework set homework 2. So you type that in here, and it's weird where the button is. I would expect a button to the right of this that says create, but here this create a new set, this is the button, and so homework number 2 has been created, and it is now the default one selected to add problems to. So if I wanted to, you don't have to move these at all. It's convenient that we just created homework 2. The system understands we want to add problems to homework set number 2, but if you wanted to add problems to homework set 1, you could do that here. So I'll go ahead and go back to homework 2, which was selected, and then let's say that this is an algebra course. So click to algebra, and maybe we'll look at some factoring problems, and we'll look at some factoring by grouping. And it says that there are 39 problems, and we can show just 20 of them by default. If this had hundreds of problems, then you don't want to show them all. That will be a lot of data to send across the internet. But 20 problems out of 39, or actually let's just show all 39. So click view problems, and it is loading right now. Okay, so here are the problems, and this is a sample, so students will get a problem of this type, but maybe the numbers will be different. So yeah, I like that, so add that. It's already been added to the homework set. It says in target set here. Maybe we'll add a second problem. Maybe I don't like this third problem, but this fourth problem, oh yeah, let's say I like that, so we'll add that. So you'll see this in target set once, twice, 3 times. We've added 3 problems so far. How about let's round it out to a nice 5. So we'll add, we'll add this one, and we'll add that one. So I think in total we've clicked, and you'll see in target set 5 times. And in fact, if we want to verify that occurred, we can click back on the homework sets editor and see that there are in fact 5 problems for homework number 2, but there's no problems for homework number 1. And what we can do is go back to the library browser, and we can just select homework set 1. And this would be really weird to do, but let's go ahead and choose from the single variable calculus subject area on differentiation. I mean, can't think about, oh well, yeah, there'd be no situation in which you'd really do this in real life. But okay, product rule problems without trigonometry. There are 75 problems total, so let's only show 20 of them. So here we'll display them, and we'll select 5 problems to add to homework 1. Maybe this would be an odd way to do like a Calc 1 review for a Calc 2 course or something like that. But we'll add that problem. There, we've added 1. It says in target set. Here's a second problem. Here's a third problem. Here's a fourth problem. And maybe that's a 5th problem. Okay, so 5 problems have been added, and I'll click on the homework sets editor, and so homework 1 has 5 calculus problems, and homework 2 has 5 algebra problems. This might be a good time to pause the video and try creating your own homework set for any any number of problems. You can name it homework 1, or if you plan on using a name like homework 1, maybe you'll call the homework set a test set. Okay, so if you have made your homework set and you're happy, what we can do is per homework set you'll see options of when it will be available for students to start attempting the problems, when will it close, and when will the answers be available. So let's, today again is the 22nd, so what I'll do is edit this homework 1 by clicking this pencil, and I'm going to just change the date that it opens to, again, today's the 22nd, I'm just going to change it to yesterday. So I want to make the homeworks already available, that homework set available, and if I click back here on so click homework sets editor, and you'll see homework 1 is available on the 21st and homework 2 is available on the 29th. You can do things like change how many times a student can do a problem by clicking here, like of these 5 problems. You can right now it's unlimited number of attempts. That's what I tend to like. There are pros and cons to saying that a student only gets 10 attempts or 20 attempts or whatever. You can click to somewhere there's a way to preview the problem. Render the problem, that's what it is. And then you can see what it looks like in case you forgot. These file names are not helpful so much to you or to the students. These will never display to the students, but sometimes for you, for debugging, it might be helpful to see the file name. But like that's not so helpful so much as is what is the actual problem. So, okay, so all right, anyway, I'm not going to change any of the number of attempts, so I'm just going to scroll to the bottom and say reset. Actually, I'm just going to go back to the homework sets editor. Okay, so we have, 1 or more homework sets, and you could do that. What I'd like to do now is add 1 student. So if we go to the class list editor, there is an admin. Please do not delete that. If something really bad happens, that's the way I can get back in and help you out. There is, of course, me. I am the one other user as the instructor right here. What we can do though is I'd like to add 1 student right now. So normally you would not add 1 student at a time, right? Like right before the semester begins, you would in bulk add all the students for your semester. But even once you've done that, you might have a student who adds the class late. So this is actually helpful. So let's just say, 1 student added late, and we'll click add, and maybe the name of that student is gonna, maybe their last name is last and their first name is first. And their student ID, instead of putting in their actual student ID, we'll just use the part, so their email address, let's just say, is first last uwlix.edu. Now that's probably not what it is, but we're making things up here. That first part in front of the @ sign, we're going to make that both their student ID and their login name. I strongly suggest you do not actually use their student IDs. To use instead the part before the @ sign of their email as both the login name and the student ID. So what happens when you do this is this thing here, of course, becomes their login or username. This thing, the student ID, or what the system thinks is their student ID, becomes their password. So that's helpful, right? So when you tell students about this thing, you just tell them, your username is the same as your password. You can use these section, recitation, comment sections as you please. They do not matter to the system at all. And then here's a thing where if you scroll down, of these new users we're creating, which homeworks do we want them to be able to see and access? So you might create different homework sets per semester, or for various reasons you might not give every homework to every student. So you do need to tell the system which homework sets, and there's only 2 existing in this system, which homework sets should be assigned to this new user we're creating. So we'll just create the student, and again, their login is first last, their password, which is their, according to the system, the student ID, their password is first last. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to go ahead and use another browser which I have open. Here it is. This is a separate browser. I was in Chrome before, if you're curious. This is now Firefox. And if I remember right, did we say first last? And password also, FIRST, So if I submit, I've now logged in as the student, as you see up here. I do still have the other browser open, where I'm logged in as the instructor. But if I switch back to the browser we were at, you'll see from the student view there's a homework set that is open because we made it open for yesterday, and a homework set that's not open yet. But let's go ahead and do this homework, which is open on September 5th. We'll click there. Again, oh yeah, there were 5 problems. Was this the calculus review set? Yeah, I think it was. So let's see, we're supposed to find f prime of 6. So let me just, I'm going to just type in this space since I don't have paper in front of me. So 4x to the 6th, to the 5th minus 16x cubed, right? So that's distributing, and then I just created some spaces where I can have some space to actually work on the differentiation. There we go, something that looks like this, but then we need to evaluate, I believe that's f prime of x if I've not screwed up, but we want to evaluate that at 6. So I think that should be the answer to the first part. And it says it is. Okay, so I got that correct, but it says the next part I have wrong. And, well, it's wrong because I haven't typed in anything for f prime of -3, but I could input an answer that's probably going to be wrong, and another that's going to be wrong, and maybe even instead I tried 4, I tried 5, maybe I'll try 6. And often at this point, maybe students will try the problem hundreds of times and be frustrated. They might email you. I wouldn't suggest you allow students to do that, but in case that occurs, you can then, so you get an email from a student. Okay, I'm back on, this is the instructor version here, right? The instructor window where I'm logged in using a different browser. And what I might do is say, okay, that student, it was first last, who struggled. From the classless editor, I might click on the student, and I'm now acting as that student. I can go to homework 1, which, we can see that the student attempted problem number 1 4 times, has half of it correct, so I can click on it. And actually, if I scroll down, the student doesn't have this button, but you can see by clicking Show Past Answers, all of that student's previous answers. So at 1:30, this was their answer for part A, answer for part B was blank, and you see all the responses alongside the time. So I'll leave this window open and just go back to the student's browser, and all I really should do, I didn't even look at the question yet, is evaluate the derivative at another input. So let's just submit that, and it says, correct. This green line across means that the student has credit for it. So if I go back to the instructor view and just really reload this page of showing past answers, there it is, that's in green, that's in green. So I can now actually go back and see for this student, it's all correct and they've earned 100%. And now I can even stop acting as a student. Maybe the problem over here that might change a little bit, it might now be, it is a little different. This is now my version of the problem. So this might be a good time to say, go to the classless editor, and add a new student, assign them some homework sets, and try logging out as the instructor, log in as a student, and attempt some of the problems. Okay, now if you've done that and you're back, you might create users and forget to assign them to homework sets, or you might create homeworks and new homework sets and then not yet assign them to users. So there's several ways to do it. Like for instance, right now, at least with my setup, I have, where am I on? Oh yeah, the classless editor. So I see my current users, and I see that E. Kim has been assigned to 2 out of the 2 available homework sets, and First Last has been assigned to 2 out of the 2 homework sets. If I were to log in as the admin does not have access to any of the homework sets. That's fine. From the homework sets editor, I can see that there's 2 homework sets here, and then the first homework set is assigned to 2 out of the 3 users. So maybe click here and say, the admin, there's no reason as the admin I'd log in and do the homework, but you could certainly assign it to me or to any other users you create from here. So now if we click back on the homework sets, you'll see that there is a homework number 1 that's available for all 3 users, and homework 2 that's only available for 2 out of 3 users. So we've added users one at a time and at least seen places where you can assign different homework sets to different users. But now, what about adding students in bulk? So if you'll see, I have the page that documents how it's done is on the WeBWorK WeBWorK wiki. You can go to webwork.maa.org/wiki/classes_files with a capital C, capital F, and you need to create a file that basically looks like this. It's showing you here the columns as they'd be numbered or lettered in Excel, and only certain columns are needed. So in fact, it says here the password and permission files should be left blank. And if you do that, then the initial password is set to the student ID. That's what you want. Do not fill in column number 10 or column letter J in Excel. That the password needs to be in a special format called crypted, which is really difficult to do. So it's better to just put in what you want as their password in this column and what you want as their username in column 9 or column letter I. And most of these fields can be left blank. In fact, in Excel, I had created something like this. So this will eventually, this right here, KS, will be the eventual password. KS over here in column I will be the eventual username. Here's the last name, it's student, the first name is Kylo. Column D, or the fourth column, is C, meaning current. All these other areas can be left blank with the exception of column H for the email address. So basically, I just, I need last name, I need first name, I need email address, and then I just take the part before the @ sign and paste it in I and paste it in A, and then column D for each student should be C, meaning they're a current user. So I created 3 users here. Go ahead and you save this file as a CSV. I've already actually done that. And then what you do is you need to go find that file and then rename it to end LST. Whoops, let me go back. What did I do here? Yeah, back here. You just need to rename that file as a LST instead of a .csv. Now, it might not let me do that because I have Excel open. Right, okay, so let me close Excel. Sure, save it. Save it as that. Yeah, okay. Now that Excel is done, I should be able to rename the file. Now that I've renamed the file, let me go to my browser. This is the wrong one. This is the one where I'm still logged in as a student. So let me go to the other browser. Yeah, where in the correct tab. Okay, this is where I'm logged in as the instructor. Go to File Manager. Then I need to click Choose File, and then there's the file that I created that ends .lst. It's in the correct format. I will upload it, and now that it's been uploaded, what I'm going to do is go back to the class list editor section, choose Import. There is that new file, my-new-student.lst. And these settings are usually okay. Don't replace any users. In case you accidentally try to add students that have already been added, and then do that. And now you'll see the 3 users, username GP, username KS, username a user. Those 3 people have accounts. There's their first name, last name. So GP should be one of the logins. And in fact, if I go back to the other browser, I will log in as that student and try to log in as GP. That is, remember, both the username and password. Now you'll see that there's no homework sets available here for the student. And that's because if you go back, of the 2 homework sets, this student has been assigned 0 of them. So I'll click here and just say, you know what, assign those, check those, and then click Assign All Sets. Now if I go back to the student user and hit reload, reload, this user now has access to the 2 homework sets, and of course this student hasn't attempted anything. If I log out as this student, log in instead as KS both for username and password, this student doesn't have access to anything yet, and it's getting a bit much to do this one user at a time, and I could do that over here. I clicked in the class list editor, and I could add, for Kylo student, I could add the 2 assignments, assign them, or I could just click on the homework sets editor. And what I tend to do, I have 4 out of 6 assigned to homework 1, and 3 out of the 6 users have been assigned to homework 2. I actually just tend to open these all in a new tab, and then in this new tab, just assign to all the users, and then the next tab over, assign to all users. That tends to work out pretty well. Again, be sure to, for the user ID, just use the part before the @ sign. The first column in Excel is really what WeBWorK thinks is the student ID, but that's really the place to store the password. That will make things easier. So don't actually use their student ID, just put what you want their password to be in the student ID column. The last little thing I think really is to say in the scoring tools area, so periodically you're going to want to take the scores from here and store them in some other system. So what I can do is say I'll just select homeworks 1 and 2 and say, yeah, go ahead and create a file. And a file has been now created that this is what it looks like, and you can click here to download the file, or of course you can copy paste. It's not the easiest file to work with, to be really honest. You might just copy paste this last part here, or download the file up here and delete these first several lines. But you'll see that homework 1, it's 5 points possible, homework 2, 5 points possible, and the only person that's done anything is a user whose first name is first. That student has 1 point available. I think that's going to be everything you need.